Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we always love having guest speakers come on the show. In this case, you're in for a treat. We're here with our good friend, Antonio Taylor. He's an IT executive with more than 25 years of experience. He's a speaker and he's author of the book, Stop Trying to Be a Leader. Antonio, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me today. It's been a long time since we chatted, but I'm definitely excited to be here with you today.
Well, you have a long legacy in history, especially in the IT industry in Memphis, but now you are really stepping out into the global stage. And so let's start with a little bit of your background, especially related to the IT industry, the 25 years of experience being an executive, because this will play into leadership and all these topics. But give us a little bit of your background.
I was very fortunate to get my first IT role at the age of 22. My first project was getting prepped for Y2K. And those of us who are old enough can remember how frantic those days was. So I got my start there. And then pretty early on in my career, I had a phenomenal leader who thought that I would be good in leadership. And so he moved me pretty quickly. I think within 5 years of me being in IT as a technician, I got moved pretty quickly into managing in a management role. And from there, it's just been management, throughout the rest of my career, some form of leadership. And with that, I've also been very passionate about young people. So I've done a lot of philanthropy work outside, creating internships. And without even realizing I was going to eventually end up in this second career of mine, I spent probably once a month, I was speaking to students or going to some nonprofit organization to try to empower young people to be the best version of themselves. And so I like to also say I have tons of practice getting the message out and trying to make sure that people know what they can become and getting them the resources that they may not have afforded to them in some form of fashion, just to make sure that we're operating on a level playing field. So between IT and young people and speaking in the word, that's my love language. And I'm just excited for this next chapter of how I get to bring this to the big stages, to the masses.
This will weave in as well, but talk about community engagement overall. This is a through line for you in your career. When you look at your heavy engagement in organizations like SIM Memphis, Society for Information Management, really creative on your end, doing a number of things, including the mentorships and the opportunities working with youth. But talk about community engagement as a through line for you personally and professionally.
Yeah, so for personally, it's just something I was raised by my grandmother, and so she was the community grandmother. So there was always somebody at our house. So I really learned about working with the community and having empathy and compassion for people. And just, it was her way. She always liked to say, it's just my way of showing love. When I can just make people smile when they leave the house, I feel like I've done my job, whether that's via meal. So personally, I just grew up around community. Most Sundays after church, it's 40 people at our house eating dinner, and we're sitting around just talking and engaging. And I saw that growing up. And so it's kind of ingrained in me on a personal level. From a professional level, I do understand how to get to many areas that I've gotten to, I needed help, right? I needed somebody to see something in me. I needed somebody to believe in me. I needed somebody to trust in me. A lot of times in the professional space, you don't have people in the communities don't have that, right? And so I like to say, hey, I want to take my positions, my titles, and I want to use that for good. I want to go out and show, kids in underserved communities what they can become by seeing somebody who represents them, who looks like them. And I just felt like all my life, giving back is probably the number one reason why we were put here, right, on the earth, right? You do good. I love your slug. We always trying to do good, right? We're trying to do good, and you can't do good to yourself, right? You do good to others, right? And then in turn, that comes back on you. So I just really have a passion for making sure that everybody gets an opportunity to see what they can become, and whatever way I can do that in the professional space. If that's going out and speaking at a career fair, if that's starting an internship program in every organization that I go to, just to get young people the experience of being in business, I'm going to do that every single time.
So the book is Stop Trying to Be a Leader. What led you to write the book?
So in full transparency, which I talk about a lot in the book, I lost my job. Right. We mentioned, I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, about a year and a half ago. And I was working with a local company in Memphis that I had a great relationship with. And we all were on the same page about me moving, and I could work remote. And 2 months after being here, I got that fateful phone call like, hey, it's corporate restructure and you got caught up in it. And so at that time, I just really had a lot of time on my hands. I did some self-evaluation, really did some self discovery, and I just realized through all my experiences and things of that nature, there were some lessons that I had been taught that didn't pan out the way that I wanted them to. But I also realized how much I had been performing and how I had been not showing up as my authentic self. I had followed the model of a mentor, what somebody told me to do, and then I realized it led me to still not being able to have the job. And so, quite frankly, I just said, you know what? If I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go out on my own terms. And then I started to think, I wonder how many people are in the state that I'm in, where you've been trying to be something that you already are, right? And that's the basis of the book. It's not so much about stop trying to be a leader. The basis of the book is like you already are. You don't have to try to be that anymore. You have some natural God-given abilities. All of us do that are unique to us. And it's our job now to say, you know what? I got to get out of my own way and become the version of myself that I'm happy and that I'm proud of. And I don't have to perform. I can just show up and be me. So the book came out of it came out of pain, right? It came out of losing a job, feeling embarrassed that I'm not able to provide for my wife. I just moved us here 2 months ago, and I'm the breadwinner, and now I lose my job. And there was a pity party for a moment, and I said, you know what? You got to rise above this. You got to come to who you are, dig deep into who your grandmother raised you to be, and come out of that and be the leader that you've been created to be.
Well, just like a songwriter where being vulnerable and going through a very difficult time leads to a hit song, out of tragedy is, an opportunity for triumph. But to your
Yeah.
point, to share those lessons learned. And so when you look at the major themes around authenticity, imposter syndrome, and yet also too, like you said, not being caught up on a label, on a title, and really looking at what you bring to the table as an individual.
Mhm.
Let's go ahead and start diving into some of those key themes from the book. So let's talk about authentic leadership. On that theme, talk about some of the ways that is, woven into the book.
So one of the things that I talk about in the book is how to find who you are, right? And authentic, has become a big buzzword about showing up to work authentically. But the reality of the fact, Jeremy, is we're all coming from different backgrounds, different races, different nationalities. How you're perceived is totally different than how I perceived. And as I started to reflect and I write the book, I realized that I couldn't. In my mind, I told myself I couldn't show up as my authentic self, right? I couldn't show up, right? Because hey, if somebody bangs on the table, they may be seen as passionate. If I bang on the table, I may be seen as angry, right? And so that led me to say, well, hold on a second. That leads to the performance, right? That leads to well, I really can't show up as myself like I thought I could or like I thought I was, right? And I started to realize if you do that enough time, actually forget who you are and you start showing up so non-authentic that people don't even recognize you anymore. And I realized throughout my career, especially later on, I had become that person where people were like, you're so different outside of work than you are at work. And I was like, wait, shouldn't you be authentic all the time? Right? Shouldn't somebody see you at a baseball game and be like, yeah, he's fun, he's outgoing, he loves kids. They should see that experience across my professional life as well. And so being authentic is not as easy as people think that it is, right? And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about in the book is we all have to understand that authenticity means something different for everybody. And we have to create a space for people to show up authentic if we really want people to show up authentic. And I talk about that a lot in the book.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point is how do you remain authentic to yourself, but everything has context, right? And
Correct.
so to your point, if you're in a meeting and your natural tendency is to bang on the table and yet you could be seen as angry versus passionate, like how do
Mhm.
you kind of level the playing field to say, hey, look, this is who I am. This is how I am. This is how I'm emotional, but it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a
Mhm.
positive thing. It's not. So a lot of this, I think, is conversations,
Yes.
especially from a leadership standpoint, that create
Mhm.
the opportunity for everybody to be authentic. But
Absolutely.
what frame that a little bit deeper in terms of, yeah, like how do you kind of set that stage for everyone, not just yourself around communication?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It's about being curious. If you really think about it, we spend more time with people at work than we do anywhere else, right? And it's strange to say that and say we still don't truly know people, right? And I think so many times we can get caught in our bubble, right? Of just, hey, I'm just here to do my job and that's all I want to do. But if you spend time remaining curious, if you spend time talking to people, you'll start realizing like, oh, wait, your son plays soccer, my son plays soccer. You start finding all these commonalities that make you realize we're not as different as we sometimes portray that we are. I think it starts just simply with the conversation that where I understand that, hey, let's build these relationships. I'm not saying we got to be best friends outside of work, right? But you should still have an understanding of, hey, who's this? Hey, Antonio loves the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody knows that. Everywhere I go, I'm going to brag and talk about it, which also means I'm going to allow myself to be the butt of the joke most of the times because we always lose, right? But it's that understanding of, hey, I'm not a title. I'm a human. I may be a VP, CIO, CEO, whatever that is. But at the end of the day, I have a human. I'm a human. I have emotions. I go through sickness. I have challenges at home. I have problems with my family. All those things make us common ground. And I think we just got to get back to having those conversations. It goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's the community, right? At my grandmother's house, everybody came. It doesn't matter who you were, right? It doesn't matter where you're from. Everybody came. Everybody ate. Everybody laughed. Everybody joked. Everybody smiled. And we all left and felt like we were a part of something bigger than who we are. I think that's what's important about being authentic and creating that space for people to be that.
This kind of relates, but imposter syndrome, touch on
Mhm.
imposter syndrome, because I think it's some phase, whether it's like you fake it till you make it, and then you like, you're kind of working your way through. So it's, young kind of in your career. And then as you get older, it's like, oh, now I'm further along, but I'm supposed to know everything. And I don't know everything. Like there at a certain level, like imposter syndrome for everyone is a real issue. But I think it definitely has become way more widespread in terms of people as a buzzword. But talk about imposter syndrome and how that plays a role in all this.
So that's probably the biggest barrier to most of us being, who we truly were created to be is we've all shown up in a room or been a part of a meeting or been a part of a conversation where you walk in and you're like, oh, they're so much more qualified than me. They're so much smarter than me. There's nobody in the room that looks like me. So you ultimately tell yourself these things in your mind, right? And mind you, nobody in the room is saying this about you. Nobody's in the room is saying, hey, Jeremy shouldn't be here. It's you walking in. It's me walking in saying, dang, I don't know if I belong. And so imposter syndrome is the biggest barrier to the success of who you are created to be. What trumps that is what I talk about in the book. When you really understand who you are, there's no need for you to try to prove anything to anybody anymore. And I talk about this, I get a little spoiler. I talk about this in the book. At the end of the book, I tell everybody to do a life resume, right? Not a resume. We know what a resume is. You put your highlights on for the job that you want. But when you start putting together a life resume, you go back as far as you want to go. And you start realizing like, man, wait, some of these things I actually had at a young age, right? I was voted best all around as a seventh grader, right? And so now when I go back and reflect on that, I'm like, wait a minute, me in the room is not an accident anymore. Wait a minute, this was already put inside of me way before I realized what it was. I just didn't know or I forgot that it was there. And through my years of understanding and learning and growing, you kind of forget those small. I'm pretty sure Jeremy just didn't start doing interviews when he became. If you go back and look at your life, somebody probably told you long ago when hey man, you're so energetic, you're so impactful, you love bringing the community together. That's not an accident, right? Once you understand who you are, you can now walk truly in who you are without having to worry about whether you're the smartest person in the room, whether you're the only person in the room. All that goes out of the way when you start telling yourself in your mind, no, I'm supposed to be here. In this moment, I'm supposed to be here where I am. And all I got to do is show up and be the version that God has created me to be.
Yeah, one of the other major themes obviously is not getting stuck on the title. And I think this is a big one, especially for men. It's easy to say, oh, I'm this, and you put the title in. And I think a lot of times too, then, and when you talk about like getting involved in the community, oh, I'm going to wait until I become this level, this executive, this CEO. And so all of a sudden, like you put off all these opportunities to give back, to create relationships, to do something special. And you're always putting it off because you're waiting for a title. And so I think in many cases, the title trips you up versus the opposite, where it's like, no, I'm just a human. I'm getting involved in part of a community. So touch on that aspect of not getting stuck on a title.
Yeah, so the title doesn't make you anything, right? You're not, you're not what the title says. You're who you are, right? You're not a leader because of your title. You're a leader because of who you are. I had somebody tell me this like when I first got started because I had some of these same challenges. I'm not there yet, and the words they said to me was like, every time I see you, there's a flock of kids following you. And he goes, if one person is following you, you're a leader. And I go, that's interesting. He goes, yeah, somebody is watching how you do everything. Always remembering that responsibility. Now, there is a challenge with that, right? Because that does add an extra level of responsibility that now is not just about me, but it goes back to the community. I don't think it should ever be about us, right? It's always about how do I get other people to be the best version of themselves as well. And you don't need a title to do that. You don't need some type of status to do that. There's somebody in your neighborhood right now. There's somebody that sees you at the grocery store. There's a young cashier at the grocery store that sees you every day and says, man, I just can't wait to be like her. And you may not ever know it. And they have no idea what your title is, what your role is in your company or any of that. And so there's always this synergy that's brought up innately in us as humans, right? That draws us to each other. And your title can actually get in the way of the philanthropy that you should be doing, of the give back that you should be doing, because we can all say we're waiting, and every year we're going to be waiting for more, waiting for more, waiting for more. And at some point in time, you got to stop and just say, let me just be here and do what I can do in this moment, regardless of what that title is. And so most of us know this. Most of my probably most impactful work was when I was without the title, right? Unfortunately, when I get the title, I'm a lot more busier. I travel way more than I want to. So I don't have the time anymore to go to the communities like I want to, just to hang out at the parks with the kids or create after school programs where I can lend some of my expertise because I got the title now and I'm so busy. And so I like to tell this. My son now, who's 28 years old, I mean, he's serving as a mentor, right, for Jeff Memphis, and I love it because he doesn't have the title. He just got started in the cybersecurity, role, but he's working on a young student where he can say, "Hey, I want to help show you what I've learned in my 28 years of being here on this earth." Title doesn't matter, and I think we got to get out of that, right? Because title makes you feel like you're accomplished, and you're already accomplished. It goes back to the book. You don't have to try to be something that you already are. With or without the title, you're the leader that you're created to be, and just go be that.
Talk about now being a keynote speaker, playing like in terms of on, major stages. So talk about this transition to becoming a speaker.
So it's pretty interesting because I referenced this earlier. So I spoke quite a bit already in front of crowds, in front of students, in front of youth, in front of leaders. I've been doing that pretty much ever since I've been in my career, right? I was an eighth grade basketball coach at Collierville Middle School for 10 years, right? And so, coaching middle school girls, there's always a speech. There's always a raw moment. There's always hey, we can overcome this. I know we're losing now, but let's stick together. There's always been that. That's always been in me. I was a youth minister at my church. And so always being over kids and always being in that space. But I never really saw it as I just saw it as that, hey, I was gifted to do this. I want to spread the word. I want to help people. And that's kind of how I see it now, even though hey, I'm getting asked to come on stages now. I'm getting, people are looking at my LinkedIn and like, hey, I'm having this conference. Can you come and speak to these topics? And, you have a book now, so you're an author. So it lends a little bit of credibility to who you are. And so now it's been kind of surreal, honestly, to say, hey, I never thought that I can utilize this platform to spread the message that I'm trying to spread to people to be the best version of themselves. And so I've had a lot of practice, not in this bigger, format, but I tell people all the time, hey, when I get on the stage, it just comes naturally because I only have one goal. I just want you to be empowered. I just want you to leave here and say, you know what? I'm going to stop with the imposter syndrome. You know what? I'm not going to worry about that title anymore. You know what? I am going to look for those opportunities to lead and serve others because that's what gives me joy, even if it just starts in your home, right? And so for me, going into the bigger stages now, like how most people would probably have stage fright, I've just had so much practice. I've probably 15 years of practice of being in front of people and delivering a message that I know inspires. This just now gives me the opportunity to get out a little bit more than normal.
I love it. Well, let's wrap up with where we can go to buy the book, to follow you, and to take those next steps to even have you speak to a group. So where do we go to follow you and get involved?
So right now, you can buy the book on Amazon. It's Stop Trying to Be a Leader. I would encourage you to go get it, and I would love everybody to support me. But more importantly, when you read the book, it's going to change your life. You're really going to see yourself through this book and how you can grow to be the person that you've been created to be. Right now, my biggest presence is on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. My tag is Antonio D. Taylor. I'm working on the website right now to get that up and running. So everything that you need to know about me is going to be on LinkedIn as of now. Like I said, this business is taking off a little faster than I anticipated. I didn't write the book to be this global speaker, but hey, I don't ever get in the way of God's plans. And so you can follow me on LinkedIn, Antonio D. Taylor, and go to Amazon to get the book.
Well, Antonio, thank you for all you do to power the good, my friend. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Thanks. Have a good one.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.